All right, what's going on today, everybody? So today we are going to be interviewing one of the people from Plastic Posse podcast. He does the podcast. It's kind of how I know him. So we're going to get to know him a little bit better today. We're going to talk about the podcast, kind of what he's working on, the usual. But this last weekend, and I'll address this with him too. This last weekend or yesterday, I wasn't on because I went to a shooting class and was a whole lot of fun. So I wanted to say thank you to Scott for letting me move it to Sunday. And, that's why we're on Sunday today. So how's Scott today?
I'm well. How are you, Joshua?
I'm really, really good. I actually get to sit down today. Yesterday was all kinds of standing and, I usually try to relax on my day off because I'm a production worker, but
Well, it sounds like Saturday that you get to spend out doing a shooting class doesn't sound too awfully bad.
No, not really. But it is what it is, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So go ahead and plug your podcast, and then who's all kind of with you. And
yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, hey, Plastic Monkey, glad you're joining us. The Plastic Posse was started a little bit over a year ago. It was my crazy idea. And I have a friend here in Utah that's on the podcast named Doug Smith. And he and I have kind of grown up in the hobby together. We've been friends for, 25, 30 years. And I got my first real airbrushing lessons and kind of inspiration from him. And so we grabbed him, and then TJ Holler, who's in Washington, D.C., he and I had actually been friends over Facebook since about 2016. And he's a modeler I've admired, and we've had a great friendship. And so the three of us kind of initially started it. And then a few episodes in, we'd had a guest on a couple of times who's well known out there. His name is John Benani. He's a fantastic armor modeler, really well-known IPMS modelers, been to like 25 nationals, been on the cover of lots of magazines, and he's just a great guy. And so we added him to the mix. And then here recently, we actually added from the UK another member of the posse named Ivan Jensen Taylor. And he was originally on a podcast called The Scale Model Shed that when I first started listening to scale modeling podcasts was really influential on me. And unfortunately, they only did about 9 episodes, I think, and then they couldn't make it work and unfortunately stopped. But it's great to have Ivan aboard. What we're all about, Joshua, is obviously talking about scale modeling, but also our focus is building a community that, number one, breaks down barriers between genres and groups. We talk about a lot of science fiction. We talk about wargaming miniatures. And we try to break down barriers and be also very open and inclusive. We want to be very positive. That's what we're about. A lot of our episodes, and you can find our podcast anywhere you get podcasts, on iTunes, on Google, Stitcher, just anywhere. And you'll notice that we talk about issues like mental health in the hobby. And we have a lot of great friends out there. I want to give a shout out to Malcolm Childs in the UK with his great Models for Heroes charity. He and James Skiffins from the Just Making Conversation are both involved in that charity. They do amazing work. And so we just want to stress that it's about modeling and it's about having fun with your friends, but we also try to put the hobby out in a very positive way and hope that, people enjoy it and hope that it helps people. So
the thing that I like about your podcast is you don't just you're not all just car guys. Like, I think you're a military guy, right? But then you have a guy that builds cars, tabletop warhammering figures. I want to say a Star Wars guy.
Yep.
Bandai guy. Like,
Yep.
and you all contribute something different to the topic, which is like no other podcast out there.
Yeah,
And it's really, really cool.
well, thank you. Yeah, no, yeah, when we started, a few people told me I was a little crazy because they're like, "Why are you doing a podcast, which is an audio medium, about something that's very, very visual?" And the what our goal was not to grab a model and talk about a specific technique. It was more about, we were in the pandemic, we were all kind of missing that opportunity to go to the local hobby shop and hang out with your friends, and we felt like that this could be a stand-in. And like you said, the chemistry is really great. We all do a little bit different things. A lot of us build armor, but Doug, as you mentioned, is primarily a sci-fi guy, and TJ is not only a war gamer, he actually plays, but he's a great wargaming and miniature painter. He likes science fiction. I like science fiction, So yeah, there is a broad spectrum. The other thing that I think we get a lot of feedback on that people like is we've had people like Spencer Pollard and Brett Green and Uncle Night Shift, of course, and Mike Rinaldi. So we've had some of these names that I think people are interested in hearing from. But we also, as part of our community-based approach, have a modeler on every episode where we're talking just to, I don't mean this in any way disrespectful, but sort of your average everyday modeler. So one of us. And so we really tried to let people hear, basically make new friends all around the globe that build models just like they do. And we really enjoy that part of it.
And then, you add the covenant or the caveat of there's you, Mojo
Plastic Model Mojo. Yep.
On the bench, scale. Yep. You all work together to build this platform that, and I wanted you to talk about that a little bit too, because it's really, really unique how you started, and then you guys have all kind of come along and you've just built this great form.
Yeah, it's really great. We work together on a schedule because we want everybody out there, if they do like to listen to podcasts, we don't drop on the same days, and we all drop every other week, so every 2 weeks, and it works really, really great. And so first of all, if you guys are interested in listening to podcasts about scale modeling, you can go to a website that we've created as a group. It was done by by Scale Model Podcast, and he Stu up there put it together. It's Model Podcasts, so plural with an S.com, and you'll see a listing there and a link to every one of the podcasts. So it makes it really easy to get that. By the way, hi Dominic, hi Johnny. It's good to see you guys. Yeah, it's with an S, Josh. So modelpodcasts.com. And then we also have links there. We've started adding bloggers that blog about scale modeling as well. You've had Jim Bates from A Scale Canadian TV on your show before. Jim is a great friend, great modeler. And his Scale Canadian TV on YouTube is just fantastic. But, we have Sprue Pie with Frets that Stephen Lee does. He's a great blogger as well. But if it's okay, I'll just talk about maybe each one of the podcasts.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So you've kind of heard about us. So that's kind of what we do. Joshua mentioned Plastic Model Mojo. Those guys were also very influential to me. That's two guys in Kentucky, Dave and Mike. They're fantastic. They've been lifelong friends. Their show is, again, very, very positive. It's a lot of fun to listen to.
And you learn about alcohol too, which is
yes. They talk about their modeling fluids, so that's really great. And then a guy that I call the Podfather or the Godfather of podcasting is David Goldfinch down in Australia, and he started on the bench, and he has Ian and Julian on with him. They have amazing chemistry. They're over 100 episodes, and they're really the ones that started all of this off. Then we have, I mentioned Stuart from a Scale Model podcast. He's up in Canada, and he does a number of different things, but usually he's joined by Terry, and Jeff on their podcast, and they kind of focus on the industry side of things and news from the hobby. So, Wingnut Wings going out of business and big hobby shows, that's kind of their focus on that. And then we also have Sprue Cutters Union, which is done by Chris Meddings and Will Pattison and Tracy. Oh gosh, sorry, Tracy. I'm forgetting his last name. And they take a little different approach in that they tend to be a little more technique specific, and they really focused on kind of it's probably for a little bit more advanced modelers. It's also a little bit more of a PG-13 R-rated podcast than probably some of the rest of ours. And then we also have the Model Geeks podcast, which is Darren and Scott and Whitey and Frildo, and they're great friends of ours. And they tend to be a little bit focused on aircraft modeling because they're all ex-US Navy. But they're a great bunch of guys, and their podcast is a lot of fun as well. And then we also have one called Small Subjects, which is Barry and Jim, and they focus primarily on figure modeling and sculpting and sort of the art of figure painting and dioramas, box dioramas, shadow boxes, and that one's been a lot of fun as well. And so just right there, you've got all these 8 or 9 different shows that all have different focuses. And so the modeler at his bench over a 2-week cycle has all these shows that they can pick and choose from and keep themselves occupied. And there are other podcasts that aren't a part of our group. I know there's a really good one from Canada called Model Car Podcast, and there's a lot of miniature painting, Warhammer based podcasts that are out there. But it's awesome as modelers to be able to have this much content.
Well, and it's something to listen to while you're building. That's the cool thing. That's what I like out of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I did forget. Sorry, I did forget. Malcolm and James from Just Making Conversation mentioned them earlier. Their podcast. They're both out of the UK. It's awesome. It is charming. It is a lot of fun, and their take on it is just literally they have a conversation about a specific topic. They're both very funny, and that's an excellent one too. So sorry about that. I couldn't leave James and Malcolm out of that.
Oh, that's cool. That's all right, dude.
Yeah.
So how hard is it really to get a podcast up and going?
With technology, it's actually not difficult as far as that goes. It's easy to, pick up the equipment and figure out what you need to do. Honestly, like most things in our lives now, you can hop on YouTube and watch a few videos and figure it out. But what it does take is a lot of time. A podcast, as you know, as a social media content creator, it's really a labor of love. And so we drop, as I mentioned, every 2 weeks, and the amount of time commitment just on my part, I'm kind of the producer and editor of the show, is about 20 hours every 2 weeks to bring a good quality show. You've got to learn about audio production. You've got to, and if you have more than one person on your podcast, you really need a bunch of guys that are willing to accommodate scheduling, and you got to ask people to come on your show and, write the show outlines. Just, again, it's kind of a labor of love. And Johnny there, Malcolm and James, I couldn't agree more. I mean, those guys are terrific. And if anybody out there who's listening to this has not been to the Models for Heroes website, they're in the UK. Malcolm does just unbelievably tremendous things for veterans, whether they are military veterans or first responders. It's amazing what he can help people with through a hobby like this. He can really turn people's lives around, and it's just so admirable. I think their website, oh man, I'm hoping I get this right, but it's modelsforheroes.org.uk. I think. I hope that's right. If I am, Malcolm, so if I'm wrong, sorry, Malcolm. But anyway, check it out. It's just terrific.
No, yeah, that is a great organization. I wish it was in the United States too.
They
Because I
do.
know there's a lot of people that would benefit from that.
Yeah, there is an organization here, Models for Veterans, and we can, I've reached out a couple of times, haven't had success in getting a hold of them yet, but I think that they actually have been around a little longer than Models for Heroes, but it I just encourage anybody out there again. I just want to be positive. If we can ever take something we love, like modeling, because modeling is just the greatest hobby ever, and use that to do good for other people, then I mean, what could be better than that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. So we've talked about the podcasts, kind of what you're doing. It's kind of impressive on, how much time it really does take.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it just like I said, like with what you do, you've got to research it, you got to buy your equipment, and then you've got to put together a quality product. Coming on with you, I've gotten to see a little bit of what goes into putting a live on. It's not just as easy as show up and push a button.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. And with podcasts, we edit everything we do. And the reason we do that is because we want people that listen to our podcast to be able to listen in the car or listen while they're working out or listen at their benches. We want the audio to be nice and consistent. And so we really, really try hard to not take away from the message of the podcast through, a poor quality presentation. And so that's what, really what it takes. So
let's get into what you like to build. What are some of the things that you like to build?
yeah, so I'm primarily an armor and science fiction modeler. How I got into the hobby was as a very, very young man, a long time ago. There was a TV show on called Battlestar Galactica, and there was a design for a fighter called the Colonial Viper, and that was done by Ralph McQuarrie, who did a lot of the original designs for Star Wars. And I just fell in love with the design, just loved it, and had a few of the toys, that you would buy as a kid and everything. And then one day, a couple years after the show had come and gone, I saw a model of it, and I couldn't believe how much more accurate the model was than the toys that I had. And so I kind of fell in love. And unfortunately, the show had already gone, and it took me about another 20 years to obtain one of those models, but eventually I did. And along the way, it just interested me in modeling. And so, science fiction. And then I love armor building as well. I've really kind of fallen in love, especially the last 15 years with armor, especially some of the great kits we have now from Tamiya and some of the other great manufacturers out there, and enjoy putting those together.
So what'd you think of the newer Battlestar Galactica stuff? Because it seemed like some of the newer stuff was even that much more, and then they had different ships on top of that, right?
Yeah. I kind of look at it as a different thing because it was sort of the same but different. And I understand NBC's actually going to reboot it again. So, and that'll be interesting. But I certainly think the story was much deeper and it was written better. And I liked the tech of it. Instead of lasers, it actually used kind of more traditional weapons like we would use, cannons and missiles and things like that. So from that standpoint, I liked it. Some of the design work I didn't care for as much, but I thought it was well done overall.
No, I that's cool because you can kind of see that some people like the newer stuff but don't like the older stuff, and some people like the older stuff but can't stand the newer stuff.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, well, it's just a model, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I'm a sci-fi nerd. I mean, I love I've seen the new Dune film, which is fantastic, by the way, several times. And you know, I watched Babylon 5, which I think for its day was great, and I guess they're rebooting that as well. So I really like it. Movies like The Martian and Interstellar, and just kind of a big science fiction fan. Really love Blade Runner. So
And the cool thing for us is we're getting all new models out of those.
yeah, yeah,
That
for
I
sure.
mean, I'd be kind of curious. Like in Dune, they have that
The orn
dragonfly
the
thing.
ornithopter. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know the name of it, but
Yeah.
but it looked really really cool. Like I want to see when that model comes out because that
Yeah, absolutely. I actually follow the guy that designed that on Facebook. I'll give him a shout out if you guys want to take a look on Facebook. His name is George Hull, Hull, and his Facebook page, I believe, is George Hull Design. But he actually worked with Denis Villeneuve, and that's one of his designs. He also worked with him on the Blade Runner 2049 film. He's a great artist, very much in sort of the vein of the Ralph McQuarrie's and some of those early designers that had such an impact on the look of science fiction films.
So you like sci-fi? What's now? Are you a Star Wars guy?
Yeah, I really like Star Wars, and we are so lucky to have all those amazing Bandai model kits. It's sort of like when you compare those to the kits we put together as kids from Star Wars. They're so the fit and the engineering and what you can do with them is just it's just amazing. And so we're really lucky. And then even other companies, I'm really excited about Revell's new 1/72nd scale Razor Crest kit that should be out either sometime later this month or December. And really looking forward to that. I've seen some test shots. My friend Spencer Pollard over in the UK built a test shot, and you can find that on Facebook if you look for it. But yeah, it's exciting to be a Star Wars modeler.
Like this last summer, guy was just selling off all the Star Wars stuff, and he had remember like the rebellion diorama thing. There was
Mhm.
like 5 of them.
Yeah.
He was selling all of that plus
Oh, nice.
but for like $60.
Oh, wow.
Like I couldn't walk past it.
Oh,
You could,
no.
I was like, no, that's coming home with me.
Yeah.
So I like all next, all this winter, I'll be doing some Star Wars stuff, at least for
Yeah.
me. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy how, and you can kind of add 3D printing to some of this too. Like they're starting to do some of the figures because the movies are coming out, Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It's really a cool time for sci-fi right now.
It really is. The Mandalorian was so terrific, and their approach to special effects, and the Razor Crest is actually a miniature. It's not a 3D model. They actually created a 3D miniature, old school, and they filmed it just like they did in the old days, and that's terrific. It
Well,
really shows. And to go back to your point, which is excellent, I have got a 1/20th scale Buck Rogers Starfighter that was 3D printed. I have a 1/24 scale A-wing. I have a 1/20th scale Snowspeeder. So if you can't find a great kit from Bandai or something of a subject that you really want, somebody out there probably makes a 3D print model or a file that you can get and then print your own. So
well, see,
it's
and the cool thing about the Razor Crest that some people don't know is they 3D modeled it first.
yeah.
So they're like the Revell stuff, it should look really, really good.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was where Bandai kind of started is, they got their hands on the original Lucasfilm models and then 3D scanned everything in. And so, the parts were super accurate to the original miniatures. I think all those originals were kind of kit bashed. They used lots of Tamiya Formula One parts and little battleship parts and armor parts, and they scanned each one of those so that the replicas were very, very screen accurate.
Yeah, like I'm a big tested YouTube guy, right? And
Yeah.
they go into a lot of that, like
Yeah.
how he used to do all that kind of modeling, and it's kind of cool to watch it as they're going along, because you learn so much of how like all these spaceships and stuff were designed. It's
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
unique.
Yep, agreed.
So you also do armor, right?
Yeah, I love to build armor kits as well, and that's probably where I spend most of my time is armor. I'm primarily Allied armor, American, Russian, British, but I do a little bit of German here and there. Yeah, I kind of went through a Tigers and Panthers phase like a lot of modelers, but most of my stuff now tends to be Allied.
And that's really, really cool. You kind of have a couple things to show too, right? Is that what I understood?
Yeah, we can try that, and I'll show you a couple of the kits I've done recently. So we went recently to IPMS Nationals, and we did a group build for our podcast of the new Ryefield Models T3485 kit, which, by the way, is a great kit. I added some metal tracks to mine. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not great, but anyway, so that's T3485 from Ryefield Models. And Ryefield is a great manufacturer. If you haven't built one of their kits before, I've really enjoyed them. Here's another fun little armor build. This is a Mang Toon tank. This is a little, if we can get it to focus, I don't know if we can, but little M4A1, and I painted a little Operation Cobra paint job on that. And then just show you, this is a little French Samoa. Just can't see those very good, but little French Toon tank. So, and then once in a while, I will also do a car or an aircraft or something like that. So let's see. This is a ICM 1/32 scale Polycarpov I-16. I did on almost all my airplanes, I do airbrush markings. I don't like decals. I'm a avowed decal hater. So if there's ever anything I can replace with airbrushing, I do that. And then don't really do any ships. Once in a while, do a car here and there. I do have my eye on a couple of those recent Tamiya cars, the Mustang that they've come out with. I know a lot of modelers really like that kit, and I do have one of those new McLaren Tamiya McLaren kits, which is really great. And
that's really good.
Yeah, and I'd really like one of those Fair Lady Z kits that Tamiya just came out with. So I'm maybe eager to try one of those as well.
No, I mean that's really cool. And so, what are you, a rattle can guy or airbrush?
No, airbrush. I enjoy airbrushing a lot. Usually do as much as I can with an airbrush. I do hand brush if I need to, but yeah, I really like it. I'm a Badger guy. I have 7 airbrushes, all Badgers. The ones I use the most are I've got a 200 detail, which is a single action brush that I use for base coating and clear coating and primers. And then my detail brush is the Badger, the Sotar. Geez, sorry. The Sotar, I've got a couple of those. And then I use a chrome for my kind of general purpose work.
Wow, that's really cool. It's crazy how like just having a couple airbrushes can change your whole hobby.
Yeah, I like having different brushes because I feel like there's each one of the brushes does something a little bit better than the others. And the other thing is I never mix media ever. And so if I have, different types of paint that I'm using, I want to grab another brush. I don't ever want to mix media in session and, keep it straight that way. But yeah, I love it. I use CO2, bottled carbon dioxide, as my propellant. I like it because it's always dry and it's always silent. I do have a little compressor as a backup if I run out of the gas, but I've used carbon dioxide for about 20 years. I really like it.
So what do you mean by when you're airbrushing, you don't mix medium? Why is that?
Yeah, so like if you say you've got your brush loaded up with Tamiya, and that Tamiya is thinned with their alcohol-based thinner, and then you get done spraying that, and then you go to use, say, MRP, which is a lacquer-based paint. I don't do that. You want to make sure before you're mixing different formulas in your brush that the brush is not
Oh,
only
okay.
completely clean, but it's dry and there's absolutely no residue. And so, yeah, I don't ever mix different types of paints and formulas in the same session.
That's really cool. I didn't think that was going to be the answer, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
um, so other than Tamiya, what other paints do you use?
So my new really paint that I love a lot is the AK Real Colors. Um, but AK Real Colors and Tamiya and Goons Mr. Color, those are the ones I probably use the most. And I thin all of those with Goons Mr. Leveling Thinner, Mr. Color Leveling Thinner. A lot of people call that Unicorn Tears. It's great. I really like these are all acrylic lacquers when you thin them with lacquer paint. And what I like about them is they dry very, very quickly. They're very, very durable, and they self-level really, really nicely. And the other thing I like about them is they're incompatible with oil and enamel-based weathering products and oil paints, which is what I use for weathering. And so by spraying with those paints like that, I can weather directly on the paint. I never have to worry about the paint being damaged. Um, I'll use a little bit of MRP as well. I really like MRP. But I can always MRP is a little harder to get. There's one or two sources here in the US, and I can go down to the hobby shop and pick up the AK Real Colors or the Tamiya or the Goons anytime I want.
So the AK stuff, that's the white label or tops, right? Or is that the yellow?
It's the bottles, they look like Tamiya, and it's actually a lacquer-based paint. So
Oh,
it's
okay,
not the
okay.
it's not the small like the AK third gen, or it's not like that. They're actually lacquer-based paints, and they're great. They're really terrific. They spray really well. They self-level. When they barely first came on the market, there were some people that had a little bit of trouble with them, but I guess they've made a change, and I've never had any issues with them at all. I really like them, and they've got a great color range. Like Tamiya paint is great, but they've only got 80, maybe 80 colors, whereas the AK Real Colors have hundreds and hundreds of different colors for you to choose from.
Yeah, that series of paint, like they specifically made it for modelers. It's crazy
Yeah,
how many different color, and like it's almost the right color for certain paint schemes on armor.
yeah,
Like it's like they really thought that out really,
yeah.
really well.
I do have to say, I'm not one of those guys that gets really hung up on needing the exact shade in the bottle to paint my models with, because I always weather. And so, even if you put down a color that's pretty close, you're going to actually shift the tones by your layers of weathering. You've got dust and oil washes, pin washes, speckling, all those different things all affect the way the base colors look. And so I'm kind of one of those guys that wants to get in the neighborhood, because I know the actual tone of the model is going to shift during the weathering process.
No, and that was going to be my next question is what are you using for the actual weathering stuff? Are you actually just using like generic oils, or are you doing like the AK stuff? You doing
So the oils that I use mostly are the AK sells them the Panzer. I don't know how to say the word. The ABT 502
Okay.
oils. Those seem to be really, really good. I don't have any of the oil brushers yet, just because I've got probably 20 or 30 tubes of the oil. I have some Windsor and Newton that you can buy at the art store, but generally it's the Panzer 502 oils that I like.
So how do you like the difference between the like Hobby Lobby stuff and AK stuff?
As long as you check your oil paints and make sure that they're a little better quality, I tend to like the oils that are thin with walnut oil a little better than the linseed oil ones. But you can make any of them work. Mike Rinaldi is a friend, and he uses a lot of oil paints. And by the way, he's got a great YouTube channel, Rinaldi Studio Productions, that has a lot of information there about oil painting. Certainly a lot better than me, but he puts them all on a piece of cardboard, which then allows the oil to kind of leach out of the actual paint, and is a lot easier to use putting it on the model when you do it that way. And so I follow his example on that, and that really helps you. But as long as your oils are good quality artist oils, I think you're probably good. But I don't have a lot of experience with different brands.
So what's the walnut stuff? Is that just a different type of like thinner, or
Yes,
is
it's
that
just
something different?
the pigments kind of mixed in with an oil. It's a carrier, I guess. And there's some kind of cheaper oils that use a low grade linseed oil, I think. And then the little bit better oils have oil paints have walnut oil and better grades of linseed oil. Just kind of got to experiment a little bit, but it's like any other product. You can get really super cheap ones and a little bit nicer ones. But the great thing about oil paints is, if you pay $10 for a tube of oil paint, it's going to last you for years. They just
Yeah.
they go a long, long way.
Well, and the cool thing about oils is they will dry out, but it'll be years down the road, not next week.
Yeah, there's things you can do to accelerate those. And again, I'd encourage people to check out the Rinaldi Studio page. He's a big fan. He'll use a hair dryer while he's in process if he wants, the oils to start setting up, and using those in his oil paint rendering methods. But yeah, you can hit him with a hair dryer. I mean, obviously it's a plastic model, so be careful, but you can help them dry a little faster doing that. And then staging them on the piece of cardboard before you start using them really helps a lot too.
So what's some of your favorite tools?
I love my airbrushes for sure. And let's see, the sanding sticks. One of the sponsors of our podcast is Sean's Custom Model Tools, and they make a set of sanding blocks called super sanding blocks. And what's great about them is, as opposed to a lot of sanding sticks or sandpaper, is the sandpaper's mounted on a very rigid piece of acrylic. And so when you're sanding like an edge where you need to make sure and not roll that edge over, and you don't want to, alter the contour of something, you want to keep that edge very straight and true. Those sanding blocks are just terrific. And they come in a range of grits from 80 to 600. There's like 5 or 6 of them. And there's something on the bench that I just almost can't deal without. And then I use a lot of, sanding sticks and sanding sponges, depending on the applications, things like that. And then my favorite manufacturer, to me, it has a couple things I can't model without for sure. First is their 123 Sprue Nippers. I've used them for years. I absolutely love them. They help you get parts off the sprue with little or no damage and help you make cleanup easier. And then they make these silly little 2-packs of paint stirring sticks, and one end has a flat blade, the other end has a small little spoon. But that flat blade after you get a little practice. When you're mixing paints for airbrushing, you can put that flat blade in, stir it up, and then you can pull it out, and you can see the way the paint runs off of that blade and know through a visual cue if your paint is the right viscosity for airbrushing it. And so gotta have those, gotta have them.
No, that's cool. I didn't realize Tamiya made stuff like that. That's a cool tip.
Yeah, those sticks are like $6 for two of them. So grab yourself a set, you'll fall in love with them.
No, it's really cool. Do you use much of the tape from Tamiya?
Yeah, I use a lot of it, and I like their vinyl flexible tape too. That Polycarpov that I showed you, I'll show it. That's all Tamiya flexible tape, and then infilled with their regular rice paper tape. A lot of people call it different things, but yeah, I really like that. And oh, by the way, Johnny, the GT4, yep, that's the Mustang, the Tamiya Mustang I'm at. And then thank you for the compliments on the tanks and the tune tanks. Appreciate it. And hi, Fred. Good to see you.
Yeah, for Fred and Johnny and all. Yeah, those guys are awesome car builders. So yeah, they're cool group of guys. Yeah, I've actually got to buy some of the Tamiya tape because I'm doing the Jimmy Johnson car, and I have to do that. Like it's the thin blue line, and then there's the silver stripe, and then there's the big like Lowe's logo or whatever on the hood. Yeah, I've got to. That's gonna be my next.
Yeah. It's great stuff, and like I said, I'm lucky enough to have a wife that has a silhouette cutter. And so when I'm doing a model, generally what I'll do is I'll take the tank or the airplane and I'll take the decal sheet up to her and she'll scan it, do a high res scan, and then she'll clean up the images and then she'll cut me masks. I use Aura mask masking material, and she'll just cut them for me. And then I can use those masks along with the Tamiya tape to airbrush all the markings, that Polycarpov, everything on that tank was airbrushed. The T-34, everything on that was airbrushed as well. I really like to spray those markings. First of all, as I mentioned, I hate decals, but it allows you, when you spray your markings, you can put hairspray down and you can chip it. Markings were painted in real life. You can weather it and distress it, the same as the rest of the paint on your model. So I really think, even though I don't like decals, I think it does bring an extra level of realism to your finish. And then like a couple of your listeners are talking about here, the Tamiya tape resists bleed through. It doesn't generally lift lift paint when you put it on the model. If I'm going to leave it on there for a long time, I'll usually detack it by putting it in the palm of my hand and then putting it on the model, but it doesn't lift paint like a lot of other tapes does. So.
No, I mean, it's really cool how they even have generic stuff that I tried it once and I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
It's like, so I've got to go back and buy the actual, Tamiya tape, but I have to go to a different store. That's why I didn't buy it last time.
Yep.
No, it's really, really crazy how just one little thing can make and break a build. It's just crazy to me, and how it looks.
Yeah, it really is. And using you can do a lot as a modeler. I'm 52. So you learn as you go that sometimes spending a little bit of extra money on a better kind of tape or, can actually save you money, because if you put a beautiful paint job on that airplane or car or whatever, and then you mask it, and then when you remove the masking tape, it pulls your tape up, you've got to strip that model and redo the whole thing. And so sometimes that extra buck or two for a quality product can really help, save a project, or at least save you a lot of heartache.
No, I mean, good point. Good point. Because it's the things I'm learning as, I go along here in the last, 8-9 years I've been back into this, but um, so you went to nationals in
Yeah.
Vegas. How was
Yeah.
that?
IPMS Nationals was great. It was the first time I'd been to one. And I got to say that it really exceeded expectations. The crew down there in Vegas did a great job. They had to dodge mask mandates and deal with a lot of things that I think other nationals obviously have never dealt with. But they did a great job. We missed out on some of the international companies. Tamiya was going to be there, and Zukimura was supposed to be there. Edward, we didn't get to see those guys, but other than that, you really wouldn't have noticed. And there were thousands of models on the table, a lot of them done to incredibly high degrees, and we just had a great time. We did some live streams, and there was a big kit announcement. 1/16 scale Stug 3 by Andy's Hobby Headquarters and DOS Work down there. We got to meet a lot of great people and great friends, and just really enjoyed it. And 2022 Nats is going to be in Omaha. We're all going to go to that as well. Even Ivan is coming from the UK and is going to go over to that. The On the Bench guys from Australia, the podcast down there, they're going to come up too. But I think it's going to be probably even bigger and better, hoping that the pandemic thing is a little better by next summer. But I'm looking forward to it.
From what I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but from what I've heard, Omaha does a really good show. I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard really good things about that show.
Yeah, it's great. I know for sure that one thing they've got planned is there is a air museum, SAC air museum nearby, and one of the activities is they host a reception, and everyone goes over there. They have drinks, and you're hanging out with all these aircraft, 1-to-1 scale aircraft at tables. And from what I've heard from people that have been to Nats in Omaha before, it's a real highlight of the convention. So it's going to be incredible. Plus, I think they have a British Vulcan bomber, which I've never seen one, and I am really, really looking forward, because the Vulcan is such a beautiful aircraft.
No, yeah, like I said, I mean, I've heard they do just more than the modeling show. They kind of try to branch some of the other things that are in that community into it too, and it's crazy. I like I said, that's one I'd love to go to, but I don't think I'm gonna make it. I just don't think I'm gonna make it.
I love that word community. That's now you're talking my language. We actually have a group build, if anyone's interested, where we're doing the M3, M4, Lee, Grant, and Sherman family. So far, we've got, I think, 80 or 90 people in that. And we're going to meet up with everybody and do a group entry similar to what we did last year, but at several times the size. And, winning that category as a group, I can tell you, most of us won some trophies for some individual models, but we all agreed that winning the group as a group was so much more rewarding and so much more fun. That esprit de corps is what scale modeling is all about.
Now, what'd you guys do last year for you guys were doing, or no, what? Yeah, what was the one for last year?
We did the T-34-85.
Okay.
And, much smaller. I think we only got six tanks there. And where we were inspired to do this new larger group build was, I'm going to give a shout out to AMP SoCal. They brought an M26, M46, M47, M60, kind of that whole family of American tanks group build. And they must have had 75 vehicles there, and really made an incredible display. Just did a fantastic job. And again, they showed up. They all had T-shirts and the display stand they used for the tank. It was just awesome. And just a lot of fun to see that kind of passion and participation. And that's really kind of what we're going for, is just trying to build that community and have a lot of fun. And, help each other on the builds on the way to Nats. And then once we get there, meet each other and, slap each other on the back, have some drinks, just have a lot of fun with the community part of that.
No, and it's really cool. Like I've went on there to look at some of the people are posting some like good dioramas and stuff too.
Yeah.
It's not just the tank. I mean, people really get into it, and it's cool to see.
It really is. And I want to mention one of the other podcasts, the Model Geeks. They're doing a very, very similar thing. They're doing an A4 Skyhawk group build. And so if you're kind of a little more inclined to do aircraft, I think they're doing any scale, any manufacturer you want, just any A4 Skyhawk. And so if you're interested in that, maybe go check out the Model Geeks page on Facebook and check out that group build as well. But again, I think it's just getting groups of people together. It's just so much fun.
No, yeah, I like I said, it's totally cool to see how just one idea, just like you can just see it like that explosion, right? And then you get that cloud at the end of the year at the big show.
Yeah,
it's just cool to see. I really, really enjoy that page for that reason. Because you just see the progress from everybody. Like everybody's taking their time to do it right.
yeah, absolutely. Those group builds, you get other people's builds like you're talking about, but people post photos of the real tanks. We've got guys in our groups that have been volunteers at museums. I mean, there's literally hundreds and hundreds of reference photos of actual vehicles. And if somebody, needs a piece of stowage or a figure, or they can't find something out about a vehicle, you can go in the group and say, hey guys, I'm stuck. What kind of ammunition did a Firefly use and where can I find some? And you'll have 4 or 5 guys jump in and say, hey, here you go. This is what you do. And so it's really, really great.
So what's going to be the plan after this group build? Do you know? Or have you thought that far ahead yet?
Yeah, probably. I would say not that far ahead. We do have our T-34-85 Rifle group is still open. It actually has almost 500 members, and we continue to see new builds and new progress in that every week. We have a TIE Fighter group build that's been a little popular, but that one's kind of slowing down a little. And then we have a Spitfire Mark 1 and 2 Battle of Britain group build, which is 148 scale Tamiya and Edward kits. And that group's still been going pretty strong. And same kinds of things. We aren't going to take those to Nats, but they're still fun to participate in if you're interested in those subjects. And the one thing I can say is when we get back from Nats, which I believe is late July 2022, we'll probably have another group build up at some point around there. So
no, that's really, really cool. And so y'all are gonna meet up. Did you guys win any of the offices that you were applying for? I think I heard that back in May or whenever I was last listening to you guys were applying for some of those. Did any of you guys end up winning?
yeah, so John Benani ran for second vice president of IPMS USA, and what that position entails is he is the go-between between the IPMS national organization and the local chapters that bid on and put on the national convention. So he's kind of basically in charge of that from the national point of view. And so he did win that, and that was great. He's got a lot of energy. He's got a real love and passion for IPMS. He really wants to help the group and help it grow. And we're very supportive of John for that. It's always great when somebody's willing to not just maybe complain or recognize an issue, but actually jump in and try and do something about it. And that's really where John's coming from. And then John's also involved with the group that's going to be putting on IPMS Nationals in 2023 in Texas. And I know he's not from Texas, but he's helping them out with that as well. So
Oh, that's really cool. I think that's going to be in what, San Antonio or something like that, I
yeah,
think.
the San Antonio area. I think it's in a different town, but it's in that area. So yeah.
No, that's really cool. So, have you guys ever thought about like taking like each one of you do something different and like shift it to the right one person has to do that particular build? Have you ever guys ever thought about doing that
Yeah,
for the
we we
show?
we talk about different things like that, but the right at the moment, everybody gets so busy, and we have other things going on too, like our podcast group that I described earlier. We have a competition going on called the Moosaroo Cup, and this was originally kind of created between Scale Model Podcast and On the Bench, where they do kind of a little build off our competition. They call it Moosaroo because it was originally Canadian and Australian. But that's expanded out to not all the podcasts, but most of them, just because of timing of when the podcasts have come online. And this year it's a Gundam build. And so TJ on our podcast is our representative for that. And all the, I think there's 5 or 6 podcasts doing that. And then our guys do their own things too. TJ and John, JB, they both do builds for manufacturers and magazines. And so they have those things going on. And then Ivan in the UK is actually going to Telford in the next week or two. He'll be doing some live streaming there, but he's been building some pieces for that. So yeah, there's a lot going on.
No, that's really, really cool. Yeah, and it's crazy how you've developed that. Like, I think you have like I think you're on the West Coast, right?
I'm in Utah. Yeah.
Okay. But then like you guys are kind of all over the place now. It's actually kind of cool, and you get the different perspectives. That's the big thing I really like about your podcast is you get a lot of different. Because I think like being out here on the West Coast, it's different. Like you talk to people out here,
Mm-hmm.
it's a different atmosphere. Like on the East Coast, it's completely different.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We TJ's in the Washington D.C., Virginia area. John was in Pittsburgh, but he's moved to Denver now. Doug and I are in Utah, and then Ivan, of course, is in the UK. But then again, as we put podcasts together, we've really tried to not just be national, but global. We have a lot of friends in Australia, the guys from On the Bench. A lot of our listeners are in Australia. We've spoken to people down there, and then in the UK as well. We have a lot of friends over there. Martin, Uncle Night Shift, that's a good friend. He's in Slovakia. Scale modelers are scale modelers, and so we've tried to really bring a global community aspect to our podcast. One of our interviews we have coming up is a YouTuber from Portugal, and her name is Andrea, and she's amazing. And we love modelers with accents. It's really fun to listen to how things are done in other countries. We recently had Ilya Yut from Israel, and he had a completely different perspective of how he approaches his modeling. So yeah, we really try to bring that sense of global community into the podcast for our listeners, and I hope they enjoy that. I hope getting to hear how things are in other areas is interesting to our listeners as well.
Like you look at some of like the figure painting, like the figure painting stuff.
Yeah.
Like in Europe, it's completely different than over here because some of the kids would knock out some of the adults here.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
There's no doubt. I was just chuckling because Too Tall's Model Car Garage said he's in BFE, Kansas.
Yeah.
I think I've been there.
Well, yeah, but he's also in a spot where they do like the street outlaws stuff.
Yeah.
Like the drag racing stuff. Yeah. Like he's got a really, really cool area and then does model cars on top of that. Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, if any of your car modelers are interested, that's the one genre that and ships probably is the one genre we don't cover super well. So if you listen to the podcast and you like it, you can find us on Facebook. We've got the Plastic Posse podcast Facebook page. We've got an Instagram account. We've got a Twitter account. If you like what you see and you think you might want to talk to us about car modeling, shoot us a note to either our Facebook page, or we have an email account, which is just plastic posse podcast at gmail.com. We'd love to have some more car content. But it isn't that we don't like it. It's just that none of the five of us have it as a primary interest, but we all admire car builders. I think in some ways car building might be, from my perspective, one of the harder genres, because I look at like that Tamiya Mustang kit, and I think if I really want that Mustang kit to look great, I'm going to have to paint it like I would paint an actual real Mustang. I'm going to need to wet sand and prime and wet sand and prime and, several color coats and wet sand and prime, and then, several clear coats and polish and wax and all that kind of stuff. And I've never tried that, and so it's a little intimidating, just to be honest. But yeah, we'd love to have some car content if anybody's interested in that. But yeah, check it out. And if you like what you hear, let's talk.
So I will, Dominic here, if you get a chance to bring him on, he will be great for you guys, because he's taking like the valve covers in 3D printing and is creating them, like even the filter that goes in the old round filters and stuff. And he would be a great guy for you guys to interview.
Awesome.
Same thing with Fred here. He's
Yeah, I love his comment. Shiny is not for the faint of heart. That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah. So anyway, we're here hit about that hour mark. Did you have any questions for me?
Yeah, just we kind of met, for your listeners out there, through a mutual friend, Jim Bates. We talked about him briefly before. Scale Canadian TV is his YouTube channel. But just maybe remind your listeners and me a little bit about what is it Risdom or Risdom? I want to make sure I say it right.
So it's Risdam Design. Okay.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and man, break out that Warhammer piece. You got to show that off. That blew me away.
Yeah. We were talking before this, because and I'll get it, no problem. But like I've even been doing, like, these are 3D printed figures.
Oh, very cool.
Very cool. I still have to get better at the seam work, because it's like anything else. But and a bunch of these guys have been doing the they've seen that, but I don't know if anybody.
I picked up a couple of those McFarlane Warhammer figures to try. Oh wow, look at that Cylon. What scale is that? It's
the one that you get from like the Mobius, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is how big this thing is. Like, it's huge.
That is huge.
And like, this is all Wicked paint, and all I did was take like a white and did the big body parts, the head, and then these inner parts I just did in black. So when I painted it green, it just gave you this two-tone.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right?
Yeah, that is awesome. Layering paint and getting color shifts like that is so terrific. So terrific.
No, that's part of that, learning as you go, right?
Yeah.
It's really, I got to go get the Warlord.
Yeah, go get the big stumpy thing. Yeah, Dominic is saying the hardest part about sanding is knowing when to stop. Yeah, getting that beautifully smooth finish, but not burning through those color coats. Yeah, I hear you. And then Fred says, yeah, so true. Yeah, see, you guys are teaching me. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, look at this monster. Oh,
hold on. Stay. So I'll put it up here because you really get a good preference. Oh, you're not going to be able to see that very well.
Wow.
That's
incredible. And
this
it's a Titan? Is that what you said it was?
Warlord Titan, yeah.
A Warlord Titan. Yeah. Wow. And you 3D printed that.
Yeah. On my
Wow.
CR10.
Wow.
I still have to do all the armor stuff. Like I was going to go and get stencils and stuff to airbrush like the Punisher logo on some of the armor pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy I got to do the stencils decided he didn't want to work for a living. So, you know.
Well, do you or your wife have one of those like Cricut or Silhouette cutters?
No, we don't. I need to get one because I've heard they're really awesome for that kind of stuff. But
they are amazing. And I think the Aura Mascot product I use is the 810, I believe. You can Google it online and find it, but it's kind of a vinyl material. It works really well. It's pretty flexible. Doesn't have bleed through. But like I said, whether you want to design your own artwork or you want to just scan a design and then you can use that design to generate a cut pattern from. And it's really, really great. I'd like to know from some of the car modelers that are following here, how much 3D printing is going on in car models? You mentioned valve covers, but are people 3D printing like custom engines and components for cars?
You know what? You just need to talk to Dominic. I'm just going to leave it at that. Because that guy is doing such amazing stuff with, and Fred's going to be at that point too here pretty soon. He's getting it worked out. But Dominic over this last year has figured out how to use some of the 3D printing software to make stuff.
Yeah.
And he's taken it to a whole new level. Like he gets a big enough printer, he'll be doing bodies at some point.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Fred says he's using 3D printing. Awesome. Well, guys, check out the podcast. Give it a listen. If it's something you're interested, reach out to us on our Facebook page or Plastic Posse Podcast at gmail.com. We would love to bring some more car content into the posse. We are all about, breaking down barriers, and car modelers are just as cool as armor modelers or sci-fi modelers or guys that build gigantic Titans in their garage.
Yeah. No, I got to put this away before it falls over.
Yeah. No breaking the models.
Well, at some point I want to magnetize it so I can, ship it or move it a little bit.
Yeah.
But one of the modeling groups that are near me, they call that the baby toddler because it's 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
2.5, 3 feet tall. So it's a toddler.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's a modeler that's a friend of mine, and his name is Matt McDougall. He has a YouTube channel and Facebook page called Doogs Models, and he's actually started using high strength magnets in a lot of his builds, his armor builds, his aircraft builds, because it gives him flexibility while he's building to pull sub-assemblies off as he's painting and then put them back on and not having to glue or re-glue. So I think those magnets in that is a great idea.
No, yeah. I started printing that thing out like a year and a half ago, and that's as far as I've gotten. I've got most of it painted now.
Yeah.
But, I'm just moving along to the next little stretch.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful model. Look forward to seeing that one finished. Although I'm curious as to what size base that's going to require.
So, do you know what a 10-inch like sub is?
Yeah.
So one of my friends, he does that for a living, is he makes sub boxes.
Yeah.
So I went and took out the cutout for that, and that's going to be the base.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I didn't want a base, like that. Because that would do it. But like 10 inches around, the feet just touch the outside part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with that, and then I'm gonna incorporate some other Warhammer figures, and yeah,
That'll be a stunning piece when it's finished. You'll have to probably buy a display cabinet with lights, somewhere to house it, and protect it, but it'll be stunning.
Yeah, I don't want to pay that much for a cabinet that'll hold that.
Just grab one of those corner cases from IKEA and just pull all the shelves out except one.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, was there any other questions you had for me?
No, just keep doing what you're doing. And like I said, I love your show. The episode you had Jim on was a lot of fun. I'll keep watching and share some content on our Facebook page as well. We love doing that. We love, part of community building is helping other communities, sharing their content. And I shared your episode with Jim, and we'll do that some more. And it's great. We love it. Model building is building scale models is one of the coolest hobbies there is, and the only way to make it cooler is to share it with a bunch of friends.
Well, and like with COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've all been inside. It's like we were made for this last year and a half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's some people that didn't exactly know what they were going to do, right?
So what you're saying is scale modelers are like hobby preppers. We're like the end of the world. We got this. I got a basement full of kits.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like we did fairly well because we had stuff to do at home.
Yeah.
But that guy that, just works and does the family stuff, he needed something to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's really cool that the hobby kind of picked up too during this whole transition.
Fred's been prepping for 50 years. I love it, Fred. That's awesome.
No, yeah. It's and that's, one of the reasons that, I've been able to kind of make this work too. Cause like before COVID, this would have lasted probably a month because I would have already been through all the people that had webcams.
Yeah.
And now everybody has webcams because this last year and a half, you had to have them.
Yeah, we talk a lot about this on our podcast. As modelers, we're really fortunate. I mean, let's just start with modeling. We have a kit of almost anything we could ever want a kit of. If we don't, a lot of us have a 3D printer in the corner, and we can buy a file or design a file and print what we want. Paints and airbrushes and everything that goes with it. I mean, we're sponsored by Tankcraft, which is an unbelievable company. The mats they have for your model bench and the other products that they sell are just incredible. So from the modeling aspects of things, we are very, very fortunate. But then you throw in social media, and I know you can say some bad things about social media, but the truth of the matter is we can collaborate. I talk to people almost every day in Australia, in England, in Europe, in Mexico, that are other modelers, and we get to make suggestions and ask for help and say, how did you do that? And it's really taken the hobby, I think, that was already great and made it so much better. And then you add in YouTube with great channels like yours. And I mentioned Mike Rinaldi, who is just an unbelievable modeler, and you can get on his website or his YouTube page, excuse me. And he's going to walk you through in these sessions on how he's doing oil paint rendering, or how he's using pigments, or, all of these different really advanced techniques. Martin on the Night Shift channel, we've all seen, his unbelievable videos, and these guys are bringing world-class modeling right into our computers in our own homes. And so we love that. I just think we're so fortunate to have that collaboration aspect as modelers. You and I would have never known each other without social media, but yet now we do know each other, and we're aware of each other's channels, and we get to talk and say, hey, I do this, what do you do? And it's tremendous.
It's really cool. Like, I mean, I'll use Facebook as the example, right? Like right now it's pretty toxic for the most part, but if you just do the hobby groups, it's the best thing on the planet right now.
Yeah, toxicity is an issue, but you've got to be, at least I've found that you got to be a little bit proactive. Weed your feed, spend some time once a month, and pull out people that are toxic. Unfollow them. You don't even have to unfriend them; just unfollow them. And we talk about on our show, we talk about toxicity a lot. We end every show with, as long as you're having fun, there's no wrong way to do the hobby. Don't let other, people and their negative opinions keep you from it. But you can find what you look for. If you look for guys like you and Fred and Dominic, you can find guys like that out there, and you can also find some a-holes. So just look for the good, ignore the rest, and just remember that this hobby is awesome. And if you're not having fun, sell your kits and go buy some golf clubs, right?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, and I'm gonna answer this question for Dominic. I'm already fat enough, man. Do not bring eatable resin into my life. I'm already fat enough.
You just have your 3D printer cranking out ice cream sandwiches all day long, just out there printing food, man. Corn dogs.
Have that in auto.
Yeah, I think he's talking about a-holes, I believe.
Auto
genre.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the most part, yeah, you pretty much have to.
Yeah.
But, the cool thing about some of this is then you get to do stuff like this next. That's gonna be something I want to try after the new year. And then I want to try to start making yeah. I want to start sculpting some of my own figures. See how that goes.
Check out that podcast, Small Subjects, I was telling you about. They have guys on there talking about sculpting quite often, and these guys are talking to some sculptors that are, making high end, the stuff that collectors are paying hundreds or thousands of dollars for. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fred. I like Fred. He's making me laugh.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. He's one of, there's a group of guys that watch this almost every week that are totally behind this, and he's one of them. And yeah, it's awesome, the support that this thing has brought and how they suggest people for me to interview is really awesome.
And
it takes a group of guys to, be, supportive like that too, to make this work also, which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm continually amazed. We have a couple of our posse listeners. I'm going to give a couple of them shout outs. With Ray Davis from Australia, I think episode 1, we're at 33 right now. He found our podcast, and just from day one has been so supportive. He's in Australia. He sends us great photos. He's out at night on his job, and he'll see a picture. He'll get a picture of a koala bear and send it to us. But he's been supportive. Ian McCauley is a listener up in Canada that does a lot of armor. He's always supported us. I could just go on and on, but these guys, not only do they listen, but they send us, contributions to help. They send us email and feedback, make suggestions. They become a part of the fabric of our show. And it really makes doing all the work really worth it. And I'm sure, Joshua, you feel the same way.
Oh yeah. I mean, you yeah, it not that negative people can like bring you down, but it's kind of how I've always been like, well, I'm kind of heading in the right direction because that guy's mad at what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's kind of that double-edged sword. Yeah, like I gotta pay attention to what he's talking about, but I know I'm heading in the right direction because he's really mad at this point.
It's really funny how negative it can be. It's you just want to say to some of the people that tend to be a little more negative or tend to be what we call gatekeepers. They basically say you do it this way or you're doing it wrong. And I just want to say to them, guys, at the end of the day, we're taking little plastic toys and we're putting paint on them. I mean, not to take away from our enjoyment or say anything negative, but let's keep things in perspective. We're using a hobby for our enjoyment that is painting little toys. So is it really that serious? I don't think it is. I think it's all about developing relationships with each other and having a great time.
Yeah, exactly. And it like it kind of like this comment right here. You can get 100 but there's 2.
Yeah.
That'll be thumbs down. It's just like
Yeah.
and he's exactly right. The 2 need to get a life. But it's just crazy how much drama there is in our hobby also.
Yeah.
And I just wish we'd all just get along.
Just got to weed the feed, man.
Yeah.
Mute those trolls. Focus on the good. It's all good.
Yeah, but sometimes you got to pull one up, punch them in the teeth, and then throw them back underneath the bridge.
Yeah.
Every so often. It kind of makes you feel better.
They do need golf clubs, Fred.
That's funny. But anyway, if you don't have any other questions for me, we've gone almost an hour and a half, so I think I'm going to try to head off.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me on the show. Just kind of to wrap up, if you're interested in what we do, any podcast platform out there, we're available. Just look for Plastic Posse Podcast. We have a Facebook page, Plastic Posse Podcast. We have an Instagram account. We have a Twitter account. You can find us really, really easy. Our podcasts tend to be a little long. They're usually 2 to 3 hours, but we try to get a lot of content in there. And again, we're just trying to build a community, break down genres, and give people something to listen to while they're at their bench or whatever they're doing. So, give it a try and see what you think.
And the big thing I wanted to say is thank you for making time for this. I know we tried to get the others to come on too, but it's life. I get it. Everybody gets, busy, but I wanted to say thank you for coming on. It's been a fun hour and 20 minutes. And
flew by.
Yeah, Fred, you should. It's a really cool group, Fred.
Yeah.
So,
well, thanks to you. Thanks to your listeners, Joshua, and appreciate it. Take care, everybody.
I will see you. I will talk to you offline in a couple minutes. So that was Scott, everybody, and the Plastic Posse podcast. So if next week's guest, I got to check in with him to tomorrow or Tuesday to see if he's still going to come on next week, but I might have to figure something out on the fly. But if anybody wants to come on and fill in next Saturday, y'all know the time, hit me up. But I've got to figure something out here this week. I think he had to work or something. Like I said, I got to check in with him, but next week's episode, if any of you want to fill in, just hit me up. I'll put the email in the at the end of the show. But I will see you guys next week. Bye.